baby 1, here's baby 2, and then she continued to fish. And I'm like, there was no and there. Are we stopping at 1? Sorry, are we stopping at 2? Or like 4, 10? How many's in there? Hi, welcome to Mama. I'm Izzy, and if you're new here, welcome. So I'm going to put timestamps below for any of the sections and things, so you can skip forward or whatever to whatever you need. I'm going to try and make this a little bit more raw and not pre-edited and fancy and all that stuff and scripted. I've got my notes on my laptop, so I might look down just to kind of keep going, but I want to kind of tell this more as a story. So we'll see how we get on, and sit back, relax, and this is my pregnancy story. Right, so before I got pregnant, growing up, my thoughts were always I'd be married first, then have kids. That's always kind of the way I've been. My traditions, that's kind of how I felt life should be. And that's how I've always felt life should be. However, got to a point where I was so we were 8 years into a relationship, and my ex-partner hadn't proposed at this point, and I was like, okay, do I want to be with this person or do I want to be married and engaged? And I was like, okay, well, I think I want to be with this person. And so I kind of gave up on the whole engagement thing, and I can remember sitting on the sofa being like, okay, if we're not gonna get engaged, then I would like to have kids now. I'm almost 30. This is a good plan. So this is like October 2015. And so I remember sitting on my phone being like, and I texted him, and he was at the other end of the sofa, and I was like, what do you think about having children? And he kind of like looked over at me, and we had a discussion and decided that, yeah, we'd try for kids. I had the implant in, so I got that removed, and then I proceeded in my like science geek nature to research out of how to get pregnant, ovulation, all this stuff. I'd gotten like ovulation tests off Amazon, and I made sure things like that. And actually, for me, I was very fortunate, and it was within 3 months that I got pregnant. But the 2 months before when I got pregnant, I did actually find it really difficult when my period came, and I was really upset about it. Because I can remember just putting all my hope in this, and this is gonna work, and then not. So anyone who's having issue getting pregnant and things like that, I can understand how stressful that can be. Obviously, I was very, very fortunate, and I'm very, very lucky. I know people take years to get pregnant and have to go through lots of different treatments. So I know I'm very grateful and feel very blessed that that's something that I've been gifted with, and I didn't see it as a gift. And I can remember I can remember taking a pregnancy test. So it's 2 weeks after that you can tell if you're pregnant or not. And I can remember taking one the night before the 2 weeks, and just being sat there knowing I was pregnant. And I got the test, and it was a faint line. I was like, okay, well, let's sleep on this. Let's check in the morning. We're not going to get ourselves all excited. Tomorrow's the day we can test. Tested in the morning, and I sat looking at it in the bathroom being like, I'm pregnant, and I was so excited. I just remember that moment of just me and my baby. I thought baby. I didn't realise it was twins at this point. It's that moment of just knowing that you're a mother, and it being a joyous moment for me. I'm very, very excited. So I was just 31. Yeah, 2016. So this was kind of like the end of February. Got pregnant, did all the stuff, was like, okay, I need to go to the doctor, inform them that I'm pregnant, started again researching the life. I had those apps where you track like the size of the baby in reversion to vegetables and other random things. So I was like, okay, I was properly like 100% invested in this, and I was doing all the right stuff, and keep my body healthy and everything else. So I was really, really proactive, taking all my vitamins, taking my folic acid, all these good things. I got a little bit of nausea in my first trimester, but it wasn't bad, like I didn't get proper morning sickness. I just felt sick a lot of the time, and my appetite went, I had no appetite, and I was really nauseous. And I found I spent most of my time drinking lemon and ginger tea and eating ginger nuts. And I would dip my ginger nuts in my lemon and ginger tea. And that kind of helped keep the nausea feelings down. But I had really little appetite. In fact, I think over my pregnancy, I actually lost weight to where I was before, just didn't have any appetite to eat. And that's kind of how it was going. I very much was like, okay, I want a community midwife birth. I want to have a water birth. I want it to be very relaxing and zen. I really like water. Water and I, work well. This is what I'm going to do. And I had all these lovely plans in my head. Went to the 8B appointment, booking appointment, and kind of talked through stuff. And it was all very positive. And I was a green. Traffic coding in the NHS is like green, so I was like, excellent. Nice, straightforward pregnancy. This is all going good. And I remember we told like immediate family and some like kind like close friends, because you don't want to tell anyone before 12 weeks in case it doesn't happen and everything else. And I just was very worried about that, not making it public till it was after 12 weeks. And it was very interesting, some of the responses. Like, so I was 31 at the time. I'd been with my partner at this point for 9 years. And I was just like, you're too young to have children. I'm 31. I've been with someone for 9 years. Like, this is normal. Like, I normally have been asking, like, people have been asking me when you're gonna get engaged, when you're gonna get married, when you're gonna have a baby, like that. So for people to be disappointed that I was pregnant was quite hard to take. They came round, so it was all good, but that, I was really quite shocked with that. So the girls were then due on the 11th of November. So I was like, okay, this is good, planning it, my maternity leave would be this long, and I was like, I'm a planner and I'm a researcher, so this was all. So, finding out it was twins. This story is hilarious and I love it. So, I went for my 12-week scan. Fine, lovely, lay down, and I could see her with the sonogram and, scanning my tummy. It was all good, and I could see that she was pottering about. And I was waiting for the radiographer to talk to me and say anything, and she was like, okay, so here's baby 1, here's baby 2, and then she continued to fish, and I'm like, there was no and there. Are we stopping at 1? Sorry, are we stopping at 2? Or like 4, 10? How many's in there? And I just laughed so much. I was so excited. I was so overjoyed. I had no negative feelings about it at all. So I was like, no, this is good. And I think somebody else discovered that they were having twins at the same time as us, and it maybe wasn't as positive a reaction. But I was just laughing and giggling and stuff, and she was like, so we need to go get the consultant. And I was like, okay, fine, la la la. I was way happy. Like, this is great news. For me, I was over the moon. So growing up, when I was little, and you used to play like mums and dads, and you'd play and pretend that you were going to be a mum and I always wanted identical twin girls. So the fact that I was having twins I was just beside myself. Went to the consultant and they're like, okay, so there's different types of twins. And I'm like, yes, I'm aware of that. There's identical and non-identical. And he's like, but yeah, with the identical, there's 3 types of identical twins. There's identical twins that have 2 sacs, 2 placentas, and it's actually quite hard to tell whether they're identical twins or they are non-identical twins because they represent the same. And then there's 2 other types of identical twins. There's ones that have 1 placenta, 1 sac, so they're very, very high risk pregnancies because they're just in one and they divided very late. And then there's identical twins that have 1 placenta and 2 sacs, and that's what the girls were. So anything that's like that or more high risk, you're scanned every 2 weeks under the NHS. So I was like, yes. And I went from a nice little green planned pregnancy, you know, water birth, all positive, to all nice green tech, to immediate red pregnancy. You are consultant led the whole way. You're going to be checked and everything else. And I was like, oh, okay. But none of this fazed me. I was just so happy. I was so happy to be pregnant and so happy that I was having twins and that they were going to be identical twins. Really, really good. And then so from 12 weeks, every 2 weeks I was scanned all the way through my pregnancy. And the fun bit was telling people, and we would tell somebody and we'd show them the scans, because people knew, the close family knew at this point, and friends, that I was pregnant and we were going for scans, and said, the scans are good. And we handed them 2 pictures. So one of Ali and one of Indy. So Ali was twin 1 and Indy was twin 2. And I know that, and I've never muddled them up, like inside me, when they were inside me. Just get into that. I have muddled them up when they were children and babies and stuff, but that's by the by. They're very identical at times. So gave them the scan, and it was really funny. So one was facing one, one was facing the other, and funny watching people click that it's twins. Like, some people really didn't get it, and they were looking at these 2 pictures like, what? I don't know I can't see the difference. And it says like twin 1, twin 2 on it, and they were like, it's just really funny to watch when they realised that it was 2. And they're like, oh, is it a girl? And I'm like, you can't tell gender yet. And they're like, I can't see. So that was quite fun. And yeah, telling people was lots of fun. And so now, I'm now in the second trimester. My nausea kind of died down a wee bit. My cravings went woof. So my craving while I was pregnant was steak pie, mashed potatoes and peas. I don't know how many times I had that, but I don't know, it was totally my body preparing me, making sure I had enough iron in my body, and the girls, you know, helping with that. So I was eating that regularly. My appetite came back a bit, but I still wasn't anywhere near as hungry as I am when I'm not pregnant, if that makes sense. So that was good. And I was now researching the out of it, and so many good things. We had a really funny story. So we went buggy shopping after we found out that we were going to have twins. We're like, let's get a buggy, we need to get a fancy one, and all the different like twin buggy things. I have a video as well about like top twin tips. I'll link it in this bit so you can see. And we went buggy shopping, and we ended up buying a car, as you do, because our little car was probably not going to fit 2 children, 2 dogs, and all the paraphernalia that goes with them. More than all the paraphernalia that comes with children. Look, it's like a cart in your house when you leave the house. I started reading, and there was a book that was an absolute godsend for me, and that was What Doing and Expecting To by Natalie Diaz from Twiniversity. Highly recommend that book if you're pregnant with twins, or you're surviving your first year of twins. That was my book, and it was brilliant. I will link it below as well so you can see it. The other thing I started doing, I started watching, I was kind of coming out at the same time, was the Busbys, Outdaughtered, and so they had 5 girls under 5, and so the 6 girls under 5, the quintuplets, and a girl that was 5. So it was just watching them and like seeing how you deal with multiples, and watching any show that had multiple pregnancies, and I loved it, and I was like, yes, this was for me. So that was going well. All that kind of nice and positive. The 2 weekly scans, they were going well. So the 16-week scan, I was like, oh, this means I get to find out early if they're girls or boys and what's going on there. And I thought having twins was a big enough shock. We're not going to like not find out gender till they're born and all this stuff. I was like, no, not good doing that. And then 16-week scan, I was like, right, can I get to find out 4 weeks before most people do? And I was very, very excited about this, and all my scans and seeing the consultant, blah, 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 because that's what I'm like. And I went in on the 16-week scan, and Ali had her legs crossed, and Indy had the umbilical cord like between her legs. So the consultant said she could tell what they were, but because it's just when you find out about gender, she didn't want to give me the wrong answer or say something wrong, and so like, I'm gonna have to wait, you have to come back, like, you know, only 2 weeks scan at 18 weeks, you'll find it. But I was like, oh, it's still 2 weeks before like normal. So went back at the 18-week scan, and she's like, yep, definitely girls. So that meant the names were a little bit easier. We were struggling with 2 boy names. We had listed like girls' names and boys' names, and all the kids I used to teach or coach would be coming to me with like pages of names for me. You should call these ones. We came up more names for you, and I'm like, oh, it's so cute. So that was really lovely. I realise now my washing machine is on a spin cycle, so this will be fun, trying to talk over a washing machine. We'll see how that goes. It's going on fine. And then around about that time, went for one of our regular checkups, and she starts scanning, and they're checking for a thing called twin-to-twin transfusion. So that's where one twin gets more of the stuff than the other, and so the weights are not accurate, not matched, but one's getting much bigger than the other. So that's why I was scanned every 2 weeks, and everything's going fine. But she's like, look, I've measured their femurs, and I'm like, okay, and there's something I need to tell you, and I'm like, okay, osteoporosis, what rickets, what other bone deficiency disorders can I think of? And like, okay, I'm thinking like all these different like medical things to do with bone, and they're like, they're gonna be short. And I was like, okay, I'm 5 foot tall. Most of my family are quite small. No, Sherlock, like, okay, I thought that. Ironically, they are very tall girls. So, we move. So pregnancy's going well, I'm starting to show, getting bigger, it's nice pregnancy, la la la. And I was told that basically with multiples, you get them to 24 weeks. After 24 weeks, the chances of survival are much, much higher. So basically, get through trimester 2, keep everything happy, keep everything safe. I was very, very active in pregnancy. A lot of people were like, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, my consultant says it's fine, and I've had a very healthy pregnancy. I was very active, very physical, was doing very lot of lifting in my job. I was absolutely fine. I've been doing this job, so I've been putting out trampolines, and they're about 1/4 of a ton in weight. And I've been doing this since I was 15. Like, I've been doing this most of my life. It's fine. And people are like, oh, you can't do it, you're pregnant. I'm like, I can. So, yeah. And I was actually genuinely making sure, checking with the consultant, checking with the literature and stuff about what you should and shouldn't be doing. Absolutely fine. No problem at all. So that was how that went. And we got to 24 weeks, so we got to 3rd trimester, and I was like, yes. And I was basically told from this point, expect them. And I was like, okay, right. Okay, so like I had kind of like started looking at hospital bag stuff and like prepping and everything else, and what I kind of want. I still wanted to give birth naturally, but it was also kind of aware that might not happen if I go to labour early. So most of the time in the UK, if a woman is pregnant and she's like, it's not, something's feeling a bit off, like you can't feel movement or anything like that, you phone up the Matty, and they will kind of like go, have 2 paracetamols, have a bath, and call us back in a wee bit. With it being a twin pregnancy, you don't get that. If you feel something odd or weird or something's uncomfortable or something, like painful uncomfortable, not just mild uncomfortable, painful uncomfortable, you call and you're immediately in triage. So at 24 weeks, started feeling a lot of pains, like really bad, what I would call period pains, a lot of pains in my back, and I was like, oh no, please tell me this is not happening. So presently pop up, I think it was quite late at night, it wasn't too late, but it was late, and I was like, I feel like really uncomfortable, something's going on inside and I don't know. So got examined, and now, by the way, I have no problems with spheres and stuff like that, and having that done and being examined, and after being pregnant and having so many examinations continually, I'm just like, yeah, sure, like fire on in, have a look. And so they did an internal scan, and they had a look, and they were like, oh, baby one's turned round. So that was Ali turning. So I was fine, and I was like, okay, like that. I generally thought I was going into labour. It was quite uncomfortable. Right. So Ali turned first, so she turned, so she's gonna head down, and like, okay, so this is like them getting ready to get birth to come out. There was also jokes in my work about like how big I was going to be. So I'm only 5 foot tall, so about 152 centimetres. By the end, I was 147 centimetres round. I was massive, I was huge. Didn't quite get to like the same circumference as height, but I was big. I was, yeah, a very pregnant woman. And then we went down to one of my best friends, close friends' wedding in the end of August. And I was like, okay, do I go or not go? So they live in just kind of Preston area, so it's just south of the Scottish border. And I'm like, oh, don't know, because if I go into labour, then so I was like, I'm not quite sure if we will or not. And so decided to go. And on a lovely time at the wedding, very good, no problem at all, lovely, nice, great day, seeing, catching up with uni friends and everything else. It was really lovely day, and I was nice and glowing pregnant, so it was all good. And we're coming back up the road, and we kind of get close to the border, and I start feeling really uncomfortable, and I'm like, I don't feel good. Oh no, this is not comfortable pain. And we got over the border, so it's like, okay, we're back in Scotland, I can get to the hospital. And then I was like, okay, like, so the border's about an hour and a half, it's about 90 miles from Glasgow. And I was like, look, just get to Glasgow. By the time we got to Glasgow, I'm climbing the walls. It's really quite late. It's like it's like midnight, middle of the night-ish. It's quite bad because we drove back up from the wedding. Because at this point I'm not drinking, so it's fine. And anyway, so we just drove back up, and I was like, no, I need to go to hospital. So I phoned triage from the car, and I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. It's not very good. Get to the hospital, get to triage, and they were like, Indy's turned round. I was like, okay, fine. Going home. I actually went to work the next day, so I had like 3 hours sleep, and I was back in work, and I was like, why didn't you just take the day off? I was like, maybe I should have. But that was definitely practice for having children, and I totally believe this. So in third trimester, growing. It was summertime, so it's hot. I mean, it's Scotland, so it's not very hot, but it was warm. Thankfully, actually, it was the summer of the Rio Olympics, and because of the time difference, there was always something to watch on telly. So if I couldn't sleep, it was fab, because there was always something for me to watch and do. But I definitely started to struggle getting sleep. I had a pregnancy pillow and everything else. I was really struggling to sleep on my side and just not getting comfortable because I was just massive. I had to start rolling out of bed. I couldn't like just sit up anymore. I had to like roll out of bed to get out because it was massive. But that's I kind of expected that. But I think, and I've said this to quite a few other people, in the third trimester, when you are growing a human, it's like most of the stuff is like done, organ formation stuff's done, but you are growing a human. I think that's prep for sleep deprivation that you then get when they're born. It's kind of like slowly preparing your body to cope with sleep deprivation, because I wasn't sleeping very well. Nothing major, but I just wasn't sleeping very well, and it was uncomfortable. And I genuinely think that helped me prepare myself for being a mum with newborns and having to feed around the clock and everything else. So we progress. At about 34 weeks, I was done. And I was speaking with my consultant, and she's like, okay, so how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm done. They can come out now. And she was like, yeah, great, they're healthy weight. So I said before that their due date was the 11th of November. Now, I knew for a fact that they were not going to go past 36 weeks. So twins that share a placenta, there is no way on this earth they're going past 36 weeks. I knew that that's when I would be giving birth, but at the absolute latest. There was none of this like 2 weeks going on, because the risk of stillbirth, it's only one placenta and 2 babies. So I was like, I knew that 36 was coming. They were coming at 36, regardless of whatever was going on. And so at 34 weeks, I was like, no, I'm done. So I ended up going down to the sort of maternity hospital and getting injections in my butt for steroid injections. Now that's because of the lung development in children, to make sure that their lungs are developed, because you're going to have premature children, so they know it's going to be preemie babies, so that you're going to have these injections to help boost their lung development. Those injections were incredibly painful. Felt like I'd been shot in my bum, shot in my arse, and it was so. And the girls think this is a hilarious story. I can definitely tell you that those steroid injections worked, because the lungs on those children, they are loud children and they love to run around the house. And I'm like, well, being shot in the butt twice clearly worked, because yeah, they've got no problem with their lungs. They're very healthy lungs that they've got on them. So yeah, that was fun. So I came in on the Sunday. So this is it now, just before, so between 34 and a half weeks pregnant at this point. Came in on a Sunday, and they were like, look, come in, we'll see how you get on. And they came to me and were like, look, there's no cots in special care in this hospital, and they won't let you, if you're a high risk pregnancy like that. And so at 34 weeks, twins immediately go to special care, go to NICU, and they're in. At 36 weeks, they'll probably come with mum, and at 35, it very hit or miss, and depends on the pregnancy and everything else. Okay, so I was like, okay, so there's no cots in special care. You're not in active labour right now, so we are not going to pursue that when there's no cots in special care. However, your blood pressure's quite high, and we're a bit worried about preeclampsia. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, so there's no cots in special care in Scotland. And we've had a look, and there's some in Belfast. I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And they're like, so if your blood pressure keeps rising and we're concerned you're gonna have preeclampsia, you're on RAF jet to Belfast to have the children. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, right. So I was in hospital, and they were like, and I was like, do I go home? And they're like, look, if you go home, I think I went home one day and came back in the next day. And they're like, when you go home, your name comes off all the boards, all the lists. So if something changes, they can bump you up. Whereas if you go home, you come off the list and you have to then go back on the bottom and you work your way up. I was like, okay, fine. So I was in hospital, bored out of my brain. I did not do well with being in hospital for 2 weeks. I was in hospital, bored. I got on day release sort of thing. I was like, oh. So I'd go and like, I don't want McDonald's chips. So I'd go sit in the house for a wee bit and like be at home, see the dogs and stuff like that, and go back in. And so it's kind of like in and out, in and out. So seeing the consultants every day, they're like, there's no cots in special care, your blood pressure is high, but not high enough that we're worrying about it, you're good. And by the Friday, so I'd come in Sunday, by the Friday, so I'm now 35 weeks pregnant, and by the Friday they were like, look, there's no cots in Scotland, in this hospital, but there are cots in Dundee, so we're moving forward. And I was like, okay, so fine. Back to just kind of sitting on my gym ball, rolling around slowly, kind of watching other people have their babies and go in and out. So most people are in for like a day, less than a day in hospital. So I'm watching other people come in and out with babies, and I'm just like, oh, mom, babies. So, anywho, and we're now, so I'm huge. I'm now getting like heart monitors. So there's 3 monitors they put on you. One for my heartbeat, one for baby one's heartbeat, one for two's heartbeat. And without fail, every time. So Ali was kind of sat down the bottom and Indy was up the top. And without fail, every single time we'd have the heart rate monitor on, Indy would kick it, and it would like, she'd like get off, and like her heart rate was being like disturbed by her feet kicking. So yeah, she was then. And also every time, yeah, so Justin Timberlake's I Can't Stop the Feeling, every time that came on in the car, they would start dancing. Like they were very regularly, very active babies, but it was never painful. I don't know whether because they were smaller, but it was never painful. The kicking was never painful. It was quite pleasant. So I generally had quite a nice pregnancy. There was no major drama. I mean, there is bits, but like in comparison to what other people go through, I was like, it's relatively straightforward. So we get to the Saturday. So I've been in hospital nearly a week. No cots in special care. We're looking at moving me to Dundee. It was Friday, there was cots in Dundee in 9 Wells. So I was like, okay, well, we can go to Dundee then. And I was like, oh, goodness. So, fine. And she's like, well, you're fine. Like, you're not in any distress. I was like, I'm pregnant and fed up. So that was kind of where I was at. Saturday, sorry, I got examined by one of the other consultants who was lovely. All my consultants were great. All very, very lovely. Really, really loved them. They were very, very nice. And I was like, okay. So he examined me on the Saturday and was like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like how your body is. I'm gonna pop downstairs and check special care, because at this point there's no cots in special care. He goes downstairs to the NICU ward and comes back up. I was like, okay, so there are cots in special care now. There's cots available in special care. And I'm like, did you just pack 2 kids out of special care? It's like, so do you want to give birth? And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And he was like, okay, look, I'll examine you again, make sure you're okay. So I'll be honest with you. I know you want a natural birth. We can try an induction. But looking at how you are and your body is, I don't think it's going to work. And with singleton births, you can have like multiple tries at this. Whereas twin births, it's like one try, it doesn't work, you're in a section. And you're halfway down that route, the damage to your body, blah, 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 blah. And at this point, I was like fed up of being enormous. And I was like, right, yeah, it's fine. We'll have a section. And so I had my section on the Sunday. So it's technically classed as an emergency section, but it was also kind of like a planned section, like we knew it was happening. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I was only at birth on Sunday. And was nil by mouth from 2 a.m. I remember having my tea and toast at 2 a.m. It was like I had nothing to eat after that. Because kind of, again, it's a planned, but it's also, it's classed as an emergency section, but it's quite planned. But also because it's a Sunday, it's weekend, there's not any other planned sections. The only sections are emergency ones. So basically they just slot you in when there's been like a lull in the emergency section. I don't really quite know how it all works, but anyway. So got to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I hadn't had any food at this point, and I had no in my mouth, so like no water, nothing. And I was kept going to the toilet, like dabbing water on my lips, like, oh, I'm so okay. And I was like, should I go for a shower? And I kept going, and I like, it might come up and get me. And I was like, okay, no, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go have a shower. It's nearly like 3 o'clock, or nearly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Have a shower. And I was like, okay. I got to get my stuff ready. And they're like, oh, okay, right, you're going down now. And I was like, typical. So anyway, I made sure I did my makeup before I went down, because you know how the first pictures you have of a baby with a baby, they're the ones that everyone keeps and shares forever. I was like, I'm gonna have a fresh face. I'm gonna have makeup on because like I'm not having a section here, so this isn't like, I know it's gonna be fine. So go down to pre-theatre, and the nurse comes in with a Lucozade drink and a sandwich. I'm like, oh, that's good. And I'm like, I thought it was gonna be mine. No, not for me. For my partner. I was raging. I could have stabbed him for that juice. Don't really care about the sandwich, but the juice, I was like, oh. I think because obviously he's not connected to any monitors or anything like that. So if he keels over in surgery, they are up a creek without a paddle. And I was like, oh, raging. It's like, So anyway, went through about 3 o'clock, sat, I was chatting with anaesthetist. I had a spinal to numb me. Now, I am really weird. I wanted to watch. Like, I wanted to see them, like, pull the girls out. And they were like, no, in case you faint, and also in case my partner faints. And I was like, no, I want to see. And they're like, no, you can't. And then one of the nurses kind of said to me, look, the metal lights and the metal frames of the lights, you can actually see down and see the reflection. And I looked, and I was like, oh, I can see. Yeah, I was like, excellent. And then they pulled the sheet up higher, and I was like, so I couldn't see anything. So, happy, chatting away to the anaesthetist, quite the thing. Spinal was absolutely fine, no problem. I'm not a big, I'm fine with needles and stuff, so none of that bothered me. Fine, happy, chatting away. And I can feel them kind of like prodding about in my tummy. No problem at all. And I can hear them like when so when you have twin pregnancy or multiples, there is like 3 teams. There's a team for me, There's a team for baby 1 and a team for baby 2. So, open me up, Ali comes out, and I'm like, I'm just literally holding my breath, waiting to hear crying. I just want to hear crying, I want to know that my babies are okay. Ali's, I can hear crying. Bit more rummaging about, pull out the baby, pull out Indy, and I can hear, again, hold breath, can I hear crying? So I can now hear 2 babies crying. I'm like, excellent, they're alive. I can handle like stuff, but I know they're alive. And they're like, oh, look, your placenta's really big. And they kept going on about how big my placenta was. And I was like, thanks. I grow a good placenta. Fabulous. Excellent. So that's all good. Because they were born at 35 plus 5 weeks. I was like, okay, fine. I don't know if they're going to go to special care or they're going to go with me. If I put all my hopes on that they're coming with me, then I'm gonna, I'll be upset and beside myself. So I kind of had fully prepared that what I would be lying there and I would see the girls get whisked past me in like incubators and sent straight up to special care. That's what I was expecting. And then the pediatric consultants came over with the girls all wrapped up in like swaddled blankets and they planted them on me, and I'm like, why am I holding my children? I was kind of in shock that I was getting to hold them, and it was crazy. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm holding my kids. Excellent. And then the pediatrician turned around to me and went, keep their hats on and feed them 3 times every 3 hours round the clock, and they'll be fine, and I'll stay at special care. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going with that. Nugget of knowledge. Fab. And I was like, okay. So went into recovery from surgery and everything else and stitched back up, blah, blah, blah. So I was all fine. So I was holding the girls like this and again, now trying to breastfeed. Now, breastfeeding twins is very glamorous because it pops off, everything's out there. I'm now holding them, trying to breastfeed. And they're like, do you want some tea and toast? Now, this was about 5-6 o'clock in the evening by now. So I've not eaten since 2 a.m. I'm starving. So I drink my tea, down my toast. And of course, I've not eaten for a long time. And then I just very quickly eaten tea and toast. Let's just say I was sick very quickly. But clever, so the girls were lying on me like this, and I kind of projectile vomited onto the sheets, like where my legs were. And I missed the children. I ate too fast. So then I had some more toast. And I was like, okay, fine. And because they were down in recovery, my ex-partner got to stay with the girls and I for a little bit longer, so that was good. And then like he left about 11 p.m. Now normally you get kicked out of wards at 8, so it was good that it was got to stay there a bit longer, and that's fine. And I got taken back up to the ward at 5:30, so it was lovely. I had a bit of sleep. I had basically a nurse to me, like that was it. Like her sole job was to look after me for that time. So we're starting to like establish how we're going to feed and everything else. This is all good. So got back up into the ward, and this part of my stay in hospital wasn't the best. I didn't like this, and I will explain. So the girls are small. So Ali was 5 pounds 7 ounces, and Indy was 4 pounds 9 ounces. So that's pretty good. Like for premature babies that are 5 weeks premature, and twins, they're good weights. I had nearly 10 pounds worth of baby in me, so like I was like, they were good weights. But Indy in particular was really small, and they kept saying if Indy doesn't gain weight, then she's gonna go to special care. Now all babies lose a bit of weight after they're born because there's a gap between your milk production, the baby's getting enough food after birth, and it being a stressful process for their body, my body, everyone's recovering. And I was like, okay, fine. I knew they were going to lose a little bit of weight, and that's normal, and I kind of had prepared myself for that. But the way that it was being put on me in hospital was like they were ounces away, and they were weighed every night, and I just felt so much pressure on me. And there's a few midwives that weren't particularly pleasant, let's just say. And one of them, so I was breastfeeding. So the way that they were like, look, I was like, I want to breastfeed. I wanted to express, basically, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to express pump the milk and then feed them through a bottle. That's kind of how I wanted to do it, and that's what was in my head beforehand. So in hospital, they were like, we need to get your milk production, and the way midwives are taught is very much to reinforce and push breastfeeding on all mums. Now, breast milk is definitely best for a baby, but not all women can breastfeed, not all will want to. There's lots of things behind that. So what was happening was I was needing to produce the milk, but my production hadn't started yet, because the way the oxytocin works, it takes a while for it to kick in once you've had babies. And I've had a section, so section mums tend to take a little bit longer for that to kick in as well. So what they're doing is I'm sitting with them on me. Now, bear in mind, I'm feeding 2 children at once. I've got one of each, one on each one. There is no way that this is a subtle blanket over I'm exposed to everyone. And this midwife would have the curtain open. I'm like, can we not just shut the curtain so that I'm not, flashing the entire ward, please? So that was not very dignified. And they'd be on me for 40 minutes, and then they would they wouldn't really have taken anything, so I'd have to then formula feed them to top them up. And that was the kind of way they were doing. It was I was breastfeeding and they were being topped up with formula, and then I was expressing afterwards. So that whole process was an hour and a half, but they were to be fed every 3 hours. So by the time I'd finished it, I was back around again. It was horrible, and I was trying to say, all I want to do is express and then move over. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just switch to formula and just formula feed them. Maybe this is too much and my body's not going to do it. They weren't latching very well. Whether they have tongue tie, I had no idea, and I wasn't really about to go down the route of checking all these things. Indy keeps losing, both keep losing weight, but Indy's she was going to special care, she didn't have special care, so I'm freaking out, stressed out my nut. Not sleeping very well, newborn, so I was I'm really anxious, and she's when I said to me, oh, if you're really anxious, imagine my anxiety, and I'm like, thanks. One more mum tells me she's anxious, and I was like, okay, great. So I was this one was nuts. I just seemed to be caught with her all the time, and I was like, oh, can we not change her wife? Anyway, so there is a very funny story. I have divine karma. My girls are very proud of the story. So am I. So this woman, maybe breastfeeding in public, was very exposed, was not very sympathetic. I was really struggling, and every night the girls have to be weighed at the same time to check their weight loss and to make sure it's safe. Otherwise, Indy's going into special care. In particular, Ali was losing weight as well, but not quite as much as Indy was, so that was the way it was going. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So every night, now to weigh them, they have to be naked. They can't have a nappy on, because if they have a nappy on, that nappy weight and So every night they were weighed at bedtime. And this one night, this midwife had been particularly unpleasant. She was weighing them and taking their nappies off and then taking them onto the scale. But she hadn't put an apron on. Don't know why. And as she's picking Ali up and putting her on the scale, Ali pees on her. I was like, karma. And then puts her back. So, I should have put an apron on. Then she picks up Indy. Indy then proceeds to pee on her and get weighed. And I was like, aha. I was so proud of my children at this point. Very petty, but I was very proud of them. And I was like, oh, they're my children. And yeah, I was like, that's great. The next day, actually, the rota shifts have changed of midwives. Got a male midwife, and he was awesome. He was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to express and then feed them the express milk. They're not latching very good. Their latch isn't great. I want that to happen. That's how I want them to be. And he was like, fab, let's do that. No problem at all. And by the Friday, after a couple of days of that, both of them are now starting to gain weight again. All good, all positive. He's like, right. And by the Friday, we're home and got that. Also in hospital, I don't know whether it's controversial or not, but I didn't want people to visit me while I was in hospital. I just had a section. I'd been in hospital for a week prior to giving birth, I just had a section and I was getting to know my babies, and my partner could come up every day and see them and be with them and everything else. But I didn't want to be kind of overwhelmed with all of that whilst I'm trying to discover how to be a mum and how to cope with that. And now I know they've given me lots of help and support, but I wanted that time to bond and for my partner to bond with the girls. Didn't want to be inundated with people. I know that whilst no one would say that to me, I know that really upset a lot of people. But this is what I need for me to be the best mum for my girls. So that's where we're. So I got them home on the Friday, so yeah, just over 2 weeks in hospital. And Indy never went to special care. Ali never went to special care. They're both very healthy, happy babies. They've hit all their milestones. They've developed beautifully. And now I have 8.5-year-old twins. And that is my pregnancy story. I hope that assured you, kind of, I don't know, made you feel okay about your pregnancy, or if you're a twin mum and you're going through your pregnancy, put any comments below, any questions you have, or any stories you have about your twin pregnancy. I would love to hear your viewpoint and how you're getting on. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications on. My throat is now drying up. And take care of yourself, mama. Keep pushing forward, and remember, you are enough. Mwah.